All right, I wanted to share with you guys what the team and I have been up to. In addition to configuration work, we're also doing Salesforce work to sort of prove the configuration work. So we needed a way, the AI agent team and I needed a way to share documents, basically them giving me documents, and for them to present what they've done, and just basically a way for us to communicate visually. So I had them build this command center, and I wanted to go through this command center and then also go through some of the outputs that they built so far. Okay, so the first thing you can see is action required. So you can see for week 4, UAT is ready. This means they've gone through the sprint, they've done their own testing, and now they want me to do some testing. So what I would do is I would click into this UAT and I would complete these UAT scenarios. I'm not going to do that right now. I'll do one test a bit later to show you how it works, but I want to keep going through this layout. The next thing you have is feature request. So when you click on feature request, there's a short template, and then that feature request goes into our backlog. And so when I come down to the the roadmap, and basically what I told our team was, hey, if someone sends in a request, I don't expect the request to be super thorough initially, right? But I do, based on the template, we do request a decent amount of information so we know what's happening, right? So we know it's expected. And I told the team that, hey, when you get this, please break this down so that we can look at this feature request in the backlog and determine priority. So some of the things I asked for was estimated effort. You can see here they estimated human effort and AI effort, 2 hours, they said, for this feature. They said the estimated cost is about $8 to $15. The ROI is high, and they expect to do this in week 4. So the business impact. So first of all, what it is saying redesign the opportunity health scoring to separate live evaluation from historical truth. So we implemented some opportunity scoring recently, and I just want to be sure that I'm documenting the score at the time of funding or conversion, basically. So I want the score to continuously update, but once it's closed won or closed loss, I want that score to be memorialized. This way I can tell if our scoring's accurate, right? So let's say we had a score of like 25% or like a low score, 25% to likeliness to reach close won. But then the opportunity wins, right? I want to analyze that grading and understand why that grading was off. So that's the intention of this feature request, right? I'll have the full body of the request in here. I actually don't see the body of the request. But what they did, which is really cool, is they said, what's the business impact, right? It enables accurate historical reporting. What's the user benefit? The leadership can start to trust the deal health scores more. What's the technical complexity? What's the dependencies? What's the risk if it's delayed? Every closed deal accumulates bad data. The longer we wait, the more historical records show misleading health grades. So this is really cool. Again, like I told the team, you should get some decent information, and with that information, I want you to provide basically this breakdown. Again, what that helps me do is that helps me go into a meeting with my stakeholders, and it helps me better determine priority. All right, so let's go back. All right, so that was the feature request. The next one's support ticket. So just a simple support ticket, right? But the other thing that we did with a support ticket is we said that for every support ticket that's opened, we want it to go to a knowledge base. So we would say, hey, there's 3 tickets opened. Of those tickets, here's some information that we've learned. And basically the knowledge base would allow you to start to look through the knowledge base. It would also, in the future, respond to future tickets with non-unique answers. So if someone's like, hey, how do I reset my password, right? The knowledge base should be able to provide that solution. So that's less effort for the support team and also faster responses for the end user. Just adjusting my mic real quick. Okay, so that's just the top part of the screen. We've seen these 3. Then we come down here and there's blockers. So what can I not do right now, or what's something that needs to get some attention? Um, and this one is a little bit more of configuration. You can see that the permissions on the Discord channel where I communicate with my team, those channels are technically open to the public if someone could find my Discord. So it's saying I need to lock those down. I won't spend time on that because these aren't really related to the Salesforce projects themselves, which I'll probably have removed actually. And then I have the cumulative program statistics. So the whole intention of us using AI is to save time and money, right? So I wanted to start to track how much time and money I'm saving. Okay. So far I've spent $207 and I spent 10 hours with my AI delivery team. My team has spent 10 hours working. I should rephrase that. The $207 cost is not just the projects. I would say these 4 weeks, quote unquote weeks, these 4 sprints would probably come down to like less than $35. But the 207 comes from basically that's also calculating all of like the setup and configuration that I've done. So you can see week 3 shows $109. That's not really fair actually, because that $109 is inclusive of the effort that it took to build things like this command center, or to build the configurations that we need to be able to execute week 3 as far as our team goes. So the administrative work is included in that. I'm still not sure if I think that's fair or not, because again, this was needed to run week 3, but it's also likely configuration that's not related to week 3. So I'll try to break that out in more detailed. I also have just like the credit history here. So whenever I purchase credits, it comes in here. So I run through API tokens, basically API credits. Here's the breakdown of the cost, right? So it's saying like, how did you get this cost? Okay, so for a BA, we're estimating the cost, right? So for a senior Salesforce admin, we're estimating the cost, blah, blah, blah. Then what I have it doing is I have it saying, so at the beginning of every sprint, before we start the sprint, it gives me an execution proposal, right? So it says, we think it's going to take 3 agents, we think it's going to take 4 to 6 hours, and we think it's going to cost this much money. This cumulative quality and accuracy is essentially looking at that. It's also looking at what was completed in that sprint as far as what was expected. And it's also looking at which UAT scenarios passed. So it's saying our average cost accuracy is 94%, our average time accuracy is 88%, and our scope delivery is 100%. So we're going to start to see how accurate are they at projecting their cost and time. Again, the cost probably needs a little bit of work, but so far it's fairly accurate. Then I'm going to go down to the sprints. I'm going to show you what happened in the sprints. I'm going to focus on week 2 for a moment until we get to the executive output, the executive narrative, basically, executive findings report. Just because week 2, we built some more technical stuff, which I think is a little bit more exciting. And then in week 3, we analyze the results of our work. So it's a good story to go through. So I'll just go at it this way. So the first thing that we had was, okay, week 2, what were our deliverables? The one I'm going to focus on is contact role enforcement flow. This is essentially saying that you cannot move an opportunity past a certain stage unless it has a contact role associated with it. So it's identifying the buyer, basically. So that's one of them, okay? And that was a flow. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at week 2 proposal. Like we said, 3 to 5 hours, $8 to $12. Here's the deliverables. Here's the contact flow. Okay? Here's the owner, the AI agent that's going to be working on it, and who their support agent is. It looks like Anchor doesn't probably need any help for this. Here's the team that's going to be working on it. These are our 4 agents that are going to be working on the project. Or excuse me, this week's sprint. Then the execution timeline. So we're going to do this in 3 phases. We're going to build, verify, deliver. And then here's the detailed specifications of what's being executed. Okay. So the trigger, the logic, etc. Again, here's the cost estimates. That's redundant. But still helpful. I'll look at the two of those and see which one is more helpful and somehow combine those likely. Let's see. Dependencies and risk. Okay, contact flow limitation. The before save flow can't query related objects, so we might need an after save flow or workaround. So this is cool. So what it's done is it's saying, okay, based on the plan that we have, what are some risks to the project and what are the mitigations that we have to that risk? So it's saying, if that's the case, Anchor will evaluate if flow is the best pattern. And if it's not, then flow will escalate it to basically what lightweight apex. And what it did during this actually is it came to me and it asked me which one I preferred to use. And it ended up using and it recommended, first of all, it said, which type do you want to use? And then it said, we recommend you use a flow. I said, yes, please use the recommendation. And it ended up building a flow. And then importantly for the sprint coming up, what's the business impact? Why are we doing this? What's the point of us doing this? So what we see is pipeline quality and operational visibility are the two main reasons why we're doing this. And then you can see the details under that. Again, this is the proposal, right? The execution proposal. So I read through all of that and then I basically say, yes, approved or approved with these conditions, etc. And then I submit it. Once I submit it, then it goes back to my lead agent, and my lead agent assigns the tasks to the right sub-agents, and the sub-agents get to work, and they go through all their builds, and then again, once they're done with their build, they come to me for UAT. So let's take a look at what UAT looks like. So week 2... here's UAT. All right, so we're just gonna go through one UAT scenario. All right, so this one's saying contact role flow, block without roles, expected. Save is blocked. You get an error message of required contact roles must be identified before advancing past the stage of qualification. Okay, so open an opportunity at prospecting or qualification stage. So let's go to opportunities. And I'm just going to go ahead and move this one just for the sake of the demo to prospecting. And then I'm going to go ahead and just delete these contact roles because it's saying that what I'm testing right now is can it progress past a certain stage without contact roles. So let's see. Okay, so I'm at prospecting. Try and change the stage to needs analysis or any stage past qualification. Okay, so no contact roles. And we're going to change the stage to needs analysis. And we're supposed to get an error. Okay, we did get an error. It says required contact roles missing. Economic decision maker and champion must be identified before advancing past qualifications. Okay, let's go ahead and add Edna back. So Edna is our champion and she's also our economic decision maker. Edna works at a small company. And so she does multiple things. So she's our champion and decision maker. Okay, now we have those. Let's see if we can advance the stage now. Okay, great. So we added the contact roles. Now we can advance the stage. Okay, let's go back over here. All right. Cool. So that was our first test. Okay, so we would come here and we would say pass. So this is already done. I've already gone through this UAT. But I would come over here and say pass. And then once I'm done with everything, I would hit submit with my name. That gets submitted. And you'll see that I have an audit log for UAT submissions as well. Okay, so that's UAT. Then after UAT is passed, the team will conduct their deployment. I don't have any sort of special deployment process right now. I'm just working in a free dev environment from Salesforce, and it doesn't come with a sandbox. So I don't have any special deployment process right now, but I don't have any doubt that the team could take care of it. But basically what they do, so they complete everything, they test it, they send it to me for UAT. Once UAT passes, then they create a couple items for me. One is some release notes. So everyone needs to know what changed in Salesforce and why, right? So we're going to go back to this same one we've been talking about. Contact roles required past qualification. Why? What's the point of this? I'm a salesperson and you're telling me things are changing. Why are they changing? I need to know why they're changing. And the why here is very clear. Deals without identified decision makers stall. Okay? What this rule is doing is it's ensuring that you're identifying who the buying committee is before you get advanced in this buying life cycle. Okay? You can't tell me that you are 95% of the way through a deal, but you don't know who the decision maker is, right? And if you do know who the decision maker is and it's not in Salesforce, that's also a problem. As you know, most sales ops people love to say, if it's not in Salesforce, it doesn't exist. So, and again, the intention of having all of this data and having all of this information is so that we can score deals and stuff. I mean, there's reasons why we ask sales people to keep track of the data, right? I realize that there's a lot of really good salespeople who don't operate in Salesforce and they know where their deals are. And that's great, right? But that makes it really difficult if you don't put your information in Salesforce for your manager to do any forecasting, for the sales leaders to do any forecasting. And if we have bad forecasting, there's all sorts of consequences. And so the intention here is saying like, hey, if you truly don't have a decision maker, that's a red flag for us. And we need to find out who the decision maker is, right? If you know who the decision maker is, but you haven't put it in Salesforce, then please put it in Salesforce. And this is ensuring the person does that. So it's saying what you need to do. It's saying this is the error you might expect. And that's the release notes for that one. So there's more release notes, right? But I'm not going to go through all of them. All right, so now we're going to go to training guide. So the training guide, obviously, helps people learn what changes were just made. So this is how to add a contact role to advance a deal. One thing that the team and I are working on is creating more and more frequent screenshots and also on-screen annotations. So we've practiced this before, but the team and I need to work a little bit more on the results. So previously, where it says open the opportunity you want to advance, on the next screen it would say add contacts or add a contact role. You can see this screenshot is blank, right? That's not the greatest training material. The text is still helpful, but again, the team and I need to work on the screenshots and adding annotations like a circle around contact roles. They did that before, but the annotation was just off and it didn't look good. So I don't think it will take too much time to work with a team to go through the training for that, but here's all the training materials. One thing that's really great about the training materials is it also has an FAQ and troubleshooting. I can't find the contact roles on the opportunity page. Okay, well, you need to click the related tab. It's not on the details tab. Scroll down if needed. The other thing that I'm going to make sure is that anytime we have this FAQ or troubleshooting, that this information goes into the knowledge base so that, again, so that we can just, if people have questions, they can go to one place and get the answer. And hopefully at some point have a chatbot that's available to the end users. I have access in my own Discord to asking questions, but I'd like to have them to have access. Okay, so release communications, the training. The other thing is the postmortem. Okay, so the team also conducts a postmortem. Average cost accuracy, 79%, time accuracy, 92%. That's great, that's fantastic. I see that was cumulative. I'll have this, if it's within a sprint, I'll make sure that it's focused on that sprint. But what's really great here is it's some key findings, right? Critical pipeline findings, but then also lessons learned as far as the development project went. Time estimate was accurate. Formula field approach was effective. What to consider next time. Again, this is a cumulative view. This isn't helpful because this is referring to sprint 3, unless I'm in sprint 3. Sprint 3. Oh, I am in sprint 3. Okay, so great. But we were talking about sprint 2, so I want to go to sprint 2. And that's confusing, so I'm going to make sure that it's just showing the sprint that it's inside of. And then I'll have a cumulative view somewhere else. But either way, you get the point. Lessons learned, right? Risk assessment review. UAT rejections, look, 7 out of 10 first pass, 10 out of 10 on the retest. That's really cool. They document that. Corrective actions for next time. So before any deployment reaches the CEO is not totally accurate, but anytime deployment reaches an end user for UAT, Aegis must run a comprehensive QA, positive path, negative path, edge, platform capability regression. So it's basically saying, like, don't give me testing if you haven't tested it on your own. Okay. Okay, so we've gone through the execution proposal, UAT, release communications, training guide, postmortem. The next thing is the change logs. We track every change that we make, okay? And this is really helpful for futures. If we say, hey, like, why was this created? What's the purpose of it? Who created it? How was it created? These are the change logs for this, all right? Here's the flow that was created for the contact role. So those are the change logs. Okay, so now I want to show you. Okay, so just to remind you, like, how this all started was we gave our team access to Salesforce and we said, hey, give us a pipeline review. It gave us basically this, okay, without this. It just gave us a regular pipeline report. Then we said, okay, great. Based on that pipeline, can you go look deeper into the data and tell me if you see anything, any risks or anything like that, right? And then it said, hey, these are all these risks. These are all these risks that we found. And there's no activities on any of the deals, and none of them have contact roles mapped to them. So based on that, these are our recommendations, right? We have 3 recommendations, 3 major sort of like epics recommendations here. And we propose that we do this in a 30-day plan. We're going to call it our 30-day stabilization plan. Week 1, we're going to do this. Week 2, we're going to do this. Week 3, week 4, and then we'll be done, right? So then what I said is okay, great. I appreciate the pipeline analysis. I appreciate you analyzing the health basically of the pipeline and creating recommendations. Then I said, okay, let's go through week 1. So week 1, they gave me, again, that the executive proposal, right? And I approved it. And then they went through and built it and gave me UAT. And then we got everything that you saw there. So we built some solutions based on recommendations. And then now in week 3, what we're doing is we're going to see, how did this work? How did this help us, right? So we've made those updates. Now week 3, you can see is we're building dashboards. We're starting to do some grading and stuff like that. And that grading is based off of some of the fields that we created previously. Okay, so here's the pipeline health assessment. You will see some similarity between this one and the first 30-day assessment that we did. And the only reason for that is because I haven't pretended to be my sales team and go in and log activities in these opportunities. In a realistic scenario, what would happen is we would deploy these tools or fields or analysis or rules and tell the sales team, hey, you need to go update your close dates so they're not in the past, or close lost them, or whatever. Basically, I didn't do that. I don't have any salespeople working for me to do that. I could ask our team to do that, but it wouldn't really make any sense, right? I'll probably do it just so I can have more than just at risk. But what you see here is at the time of this pipeline report, this is what they're telling us, okay? They're saying, hey, your pipeline, you have some serious issues with your pipeline. All of your opportunities are at risk. None of them have any activity on them. And 60% of your opportunities are in a single account. So let's try to figure this out, okay? So first of all, we see this is our greatest deal that we have here, $675,000, and it's at risk. Oh my gosh, why is it at risk? Okay, there's no activity on it, and it's a large deal, right? So if I'm a sales manager and I see that you have this massive deal in our pipeline and there's no activity, I'm going to go say something, because holy cow, if you haven't actually talked to these people, that's at risk, right? Again, this is at risk because no one's updated that manually. Like, salesperson hasn't gone in and said, hey, boss, okay, I appreciate you pointing that out. I have, in fact, talked to these people. I'll log those activities, and I'll put in my next steps, and I'll advance the stage to where it truly is, and then this would turn green. I also have somewhere else that shows the weighting and how everything's being scored. And I'll see if I can find that for this demo. But key risks, okay, so there's process breakdown, concentration risks, forecast reliability. Here's the concentration analysis that they had mentioned, the 60% with one account. If 60% of your pipeline is with the United Oil exposure and something happens, like let's say something happens with that relationship, wow, there goes a lot of your pipeline. So that's pretty scary. And you only have yeah, okay. Four accounts making up your whole pipeline? That, yeah, it's a little bit scary. So, I mean, maybe you can't help that, right? But that is a huge risk that you should acknowledge. Here's the recommended actions: process intervention. Make sure you really know who the stakeholders are. See, look, this is really interesting. This is not just generic. I mean, it's not just generic advice, right? It's saying, hey, you need to really map all of the stakeholders across United Oil so that we make sure that all of these deals with United Oil, because it's not just one deal, right? United Oil, United Oil, United Oil. Make sure that we know who the stakeholders are and we can get them together, right? And make sure this deal progresses instead of having maybe you have one outlier who's not going to go forward and blah, blah, blah. Again, sales strategy stuff. Data hygiene restoration, automated health monitoring. Those are the things that they propose based on this health assessment. And again, that was the executive findings that they produced in week 3. And that was basically based off of the work that we did in week 2. Quick access. So again, down here, you just quick access to stuff, right? Submit a ticket. What does the roadmap look like? What weeks were approved? Show me some testing scenarios that went through. Show me previous reports. Show me change management or training. This one's cool. This also shows the operational process. So if something happens, like how does something, what's the SOP basically, right? Support ticket triage resolution. Okay, so how does this work? User submits a ticket, the server saves it, Aegis picks it up, Aegis analyzes it, Aegis finds the right agent to handle it, resolution is posted, the ticket status is updated, feed that information back into the knowledge base. So here, it's important for me to know the SOP of how everything's functioning. Discovery records. So far, take a drink of water. Everything that we've executed has been based on the recommendation of Aegis and the team. Aegis is my lead agent, by the way. So again, they looked at our pipeline, they made some recommendations, they executed upon those recommendations. We have not gone through any project yet that requires more discovery. So I gave them a pretty good amount of freedom for this first part just to see how they performed. They performed incredibly well. But in the future, and I have reminded them of this, that they are not to be making significant decisions on their own. They need to be consulting with either the lead developer, or the lead agent, who can then, or consult with the lead agent, and the lead agent will consult with me, right? So the next test is to go through a project that's going to require discovery. And this is where discovery records will sit. And I'm not sure if this is the best place for them. I know I definitely want the discovery records within the sprint. And I'll see once they start to populate what it looks like here and if it makes sense. But I have the audit trail, right? The approvals, right? Who approved what and when. And I have the changelog summary. And I guess the only other thing I wanted to point out here is the filtering, right? So I can filter oldest sprint, newest sprint, say only show me complete, show me whatever. So I think this is incredible. I have been at this for less than 4 days. They've been long days. But considering the amount of effort that I put in and the amount of work that's been produced, real work that's been produced in Salesforce, they built these fields. They built this field. They built the pick list inside of this field. They built this field. They built the scoring calculation that scores it. They built the flow that prevents me from moving the contact role. Then they came and said, this is what we built. This is how you use it. And this is incredible. This is really exciting. So I'm going to continue to keep posting as I make progress, just to sort of see how far we can push this. How What does it look like if you had to rely on an AI orchestrated Salesforce delivery team? So it's pretty exciting so far.